I was savoring my Sunday coffee, the kind of morning where the world feels soft and slow, when my phone buzzed with a notification that snapped me out of my haze. My Tesla was moving. Not nudged, not bump moving. The problem? I was lounging on my porch in sweatpants, and the key card was still sitting on my kitchen counter. At first, I chalked it up to a glitch, maybe a software update gone haywire. But when I opened the Tesla app, the live GPS feed showed my car creeping down Willow Street, away from my driveway. My quiet morning had just exploded into a full-blown car theft, and the thief wasn't some shadowy stranger. It was Linda, the HOA president, decked out in a garish yellow tracksuit, oversized sunglasses, and that smug air of authority she wielded like a scepter while slapping fines on anyone who dared park a millimeter off-center. My Tesla had been stolen by the same woman who once lectured me that my car's sleek silver finish was too flashy for the neighborhood's cohesive aesthetic. What she didn't know was that the car she just swiped was a rolling surveillance hub tracked, voice-enabled, and wired straight into the sheriff's emergency system. She wasn't just stealing a car, she was scripting her own viral arrest video. Just 3 days earlier, Linda had been at it again, nitpicking that my Tesla was parked too close to the curb, despite being perfectly within city guidelines. She rambled about some fabricated HOA rule on visual harmony, her clipboard practically trembling with glee. I brushed her off, as I always did, but I should have sensed trouble brewing. Linda wasn't the type to let slights slide, especially not in a neighborhood she treated like her personal fiefdom. Still, I never imagined she'd leap from petty tyrant to full-on felon. She'd always danced on the edge of legality, but this was a cannonball into grand theft auto territory. As I grabbed my phone and pulled up my security camera feed, I hit a wall. The footage was gone, not glitch-edited. Someone had manually tampered with the system, either by hacking my network or physically messing with the outdoor junction box, which, stupidly, was right next to the community bulletin board Linda obsessively curated. She must have cut the power, wiped the feed, and driven off with my $60,000 car like it was a borrowed lawnmower. Except this wasn't a lawnmower. It was a high-tech fortress with microphones, cabin cameras, and real-time tracking that could ping the sheriff's department with a single tap. So I tapped. I didn't bother with 911. I called Sheriff Tom Harper directly. We bonded at a town hall last year when I helped his son with a science fair project on electric vehicles. When I explained the situation, he went quiet for a moment before letting out a bark of laughter. Not because it was funny, but because, of course, it was Linda. Everyone knew Linda, the woman who once tried to fine the fire department for parking on grass during an emergency, the one who insisted kids at the community pool wear coordinated swimwear to maintain decorum. I raced to the sheriff's office, phone in hand, Tesla app open, live feed streaming. Tom patched it into his system, and within seconds, my car's interior camera was splashed across a monitor. There was Linda, squinting at the touchscreen like it was an alien artifact, jabbing at menus in a futile attempt to disable the tracking. She might as well have been trying to crack a bank vault with a butter knife. Every move she made was recorded in crystal clear detail. She pulled into a gas station, ironic for an electric car, and stepped out to make a call. The audio caught every word. She was telling someone to meet her at a storage unit downtown, bragging that she'd finally dealt with that eyesore Tesla. My Tesla. Tom didn't hesitate. He sent 2 unmarked cruisers to tail her and another unit to sweep my neighborhood for accomplices. Meanwhile, he dug into Linda's history, pulling up a string of complaints she'd filed about my car over the past year, 3 of which had mysteriously vanished from HOA records. Tom raised an eyebrow. What kind of HOA president erases her own complaints? He muttered. The kind plotting to steal the car she'd been obsessing over, apparently. Linda, oblivious to the net tightening around her, drove like she owned the road, weaving through traffic, parking illegally in loading zones, and nearly clipping a delivery van. We watched as she rolled into a grimy lot lined with storage units, opened one, and started clearing space, clearly planning to stash the car. Then, in a move so brazen it felt scripted, she propped a handwritten "for sale" cash-only sign in the windshield. Tom and I stared, dumbfounded, as she pulled out masking tape and tried to cover the Tesla logo, as if that would make it less traceable. Does she think that's how branding works? Tom asked, pinching the bridge of his nose. A deputy snorted. She's probably renaming it Green Mobile or something. Then Linda took it further, pulling out her phone to film herself next to the car, calling it her latest acquisition for an HOA vehicle reclamation initiative. She even tagged a fake social media handle at @GreenLindaOfficial. It was delusion on a galactic scale. She wasn't just stealing, she was trying to turn it into her personal brand. But her influencer dreams crashed hard. Tom leaned over and hit the lock button on the Tesla app. The doors sealed, the windows rolled up, and the lights flashed. Linda yelped, jumping back like the car had shocked her. Then I tapped the voice command, and the car's speakers boomed. This vehicle is being tracked by law enforcement. Step away, Linda. She froze, her eyes darting to the interior camera, and for the first time since I'd moved here, Linda looked scared. That was the moment the tide turned. No more citations, no more HOA lectures about curb appeal or uniform mailboxes. Linda had crossed a line, and that line had fangs. What began as a petty vendetta had spiraled into a criminal spectacle, complete with video evidence and a woman so entitled she thought laws were optional. But she wasn't just up against Mesh, was up against a car smarter than her entire plan. Linda stood there, clutching her phone, frantically dialing someone, shouting about community property and unauthorized vehicles. It was desperate, unhinged, like she was trying to convince herself this was still an HOA matter. Back at the station, we listened as she ranted, each word digging her deeper. Tom shook his head. Let her talk, he said. She's building our case for us. Sure enough, she escalated, popping the trunk and tossing in random junk: a cracked vase, a box of plastic flowers, a dusty space heater, like she was staging the car to look like hers. It was so clumsy it was almost funny, but the stakes were dead serious. If she'd pulled this off, she could have terrorized anyone in the neighborhood she didn't like. Tom decided it was time to end the show, but with style. He sent 2 plainclothes deputies to the storage lot in an unmarked SUV, posing as buyers responding to her fake ad. Linda, thinking she'd hooked a sale, strutted over, introducing herself as the Community Asset Coordinator and HOA Vehicle Liaison. The deputies played along, asking for paperwork. She handed over a flimsy sheet printed on the back of an HOA flyer, filled out in smudged pencil, not even a proper bill of sale, more like a garage sale receipt. When they asked why the car was locked, she stammered, claiming she'd misplaced the key and that the Tesla only responded to her voice. She even yelled, "Tesla, unlock," like she was auditioning for a sci-fi flop. The car stayed silent. Tom gave me a nod, and I triggered another pre-recorded message through the app, this time in my voice. Hi, Linda. You're being recorded, and your buyers are deputies. Her face collapsed. The deputies flashed their badges, and for a split second, it looked like she might bolt. But she was hemmed in by concrete walls and police cars. She raised her hands, still yelling about community rights and abandoned property, but the fight was draining out of her. Tom and I drove to the scene, and when we arrived, Linda was handcuffed, still arguing that she hadn't stolen anything because the car was unattended, and, as HOA president, she had emergency authority over neighborhood assets. I couldn't resist. I walked up to the Tesla and waved at her through the window. She glared at me like I was the mastermind of her downfall, but it was hard to take her seriously with a vase poking out of the trunk and her neon HOA private folder flapping in the breeze. Tom read her the charges: grand theft auto, attempted fraud, and tampering with private property. Linda gasped, insisting it was all a misunderstanding, that she was protecting community standards. Tom just pointed at the car's camera. Linda, it recorded everything, including you trying to rebrand it. Her face went white. She hadn't realized the Tesla was a rolling evidence machine: 360-degree cameras, always on mics, a live feed straight to my phone. She hadn't just committed a crime, she produced a high-def confession. The deputies took her downtown, Linda still screeching about lawsuits and her sister-in-law in City Hall. Tom turned to me with a grin. This might be the best thing to happen to your HOA. I've never seen neighbors this united. He was right. By the time I got home, the news had spread like wildfire. A neighbor had already slapped a meme on the community chat, Linda mid-rant with a Tesla speech bubble saying, "This is why we can't have nice things." Someone left a tray of Tesla-shaped cookies at my door, iced with "not yours" and "electric justice." For years, Linda's rules fines for unapproved lawn ornaments, notes about non-compliant mailboxes had fractured the neighborhood. Now, people were laughing, talking, bonding over the shared relief of watching her empire crumble. That night, I replayed the footage, watching Linda fumble with the Tesla's interface, yelling at it like it was a disobedient pet. It was comedy gold, but it also hit deeper. Bullies like Linda thrive on control, hiding behind bylaws and clipboards, but when the spotlight turns on them, they unravel. The Tesla had been more than a carrot, was a witness, a trap, and a symbol of everything she couldn't bully into submission. As I drifted off, my phone pinged, Tesla update available. I smirked. If only Linda knew every tap on that screen had been another nail in her coffin, recorded in glorious detail. The next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. My phone was flooded with texts, memes, and a TikTok of Linda's meltdown set to circus music. Comments rolled in from people I didn't even know lived nearby. Linda's fiasco had done the impossible. It united a community that hadn't spoken freely in years. But beneath the laughter, trouble was brewing. Linda had been released on bail and was already spinning a counterattack, threatening to sue me, the sheriff, Tesla, and half the town for entrapment and public shaming. It was classic Linda doubling down, refusing to learn. Around noon, I heard her signature knock, sharp, insistent, like she was summoning a servant. But when I opened the door, it wasn't Linda. It was a man in a cheap suit and a woman claiming to be her lawyer, serving a cease and desist for defamatory footage. I didn't say a word, just tilted my phone and played the clip of Linda stuffing junk in the trunk while declaring the car community property. The lawyer blinked, said she'd be in touch, and left. The suit guy muttered about Linda's endless lawsuits and shuffled off. Tom called later, unfazed. The sheriff's legal team had a rock-solid case. The Tesla's data showed unauthorized access. The footage was undeniable, and she tried to sell it to an undercover cop. The DA was moving forward with felony charges, and Linda's attempt to erase my security footage added tampering to the list. The HOA wasn't faring much better. Neighbors, emboldened by the scandal, dug into public records and found years of misused funds, fake security upgrades, consulting fees to Linda's brother's shell company. The board, complicit or just clueless, faced an audit. That night, the community center was packed for an emergency meeting. Linda showed up, sunglasses on, clutching a manifesto, accusing everyone of mob tactics and claiming the Tesla was a gift from an anonymous resident. The crowd booed, laughed, and played the car's audio of her calling it a glorified golf cart. A neighbor named Sarah, once fined for her unesthetic rose bushes, listed Linda's abuse as fake fines, mailbox tampering, bullying seniors over porch furniture. The room erupted. A motion to oust Linda passed in a landslide of raised hands, her last ally slinking away in defeat. By morning, Linda's HOA office was gutted, her nameplate gone, her rulebook trashed. News crews ran the story. HOA president steals Tesla, claims it's neighborhood property. I gave a bland interview about community trust, but what I wanted to scream was, don't underestimate entitled people or smart cars. The neighborhood embraced the chaos, turning it into a cathartic release. Someone proposed a Tesla Justice picnic, with Tesla cupcakes and a dunk tank featuring a Linda cutout. It wasn't about mockery, it was about reclaiming joy. A new resident, a tech entrepreneur named Marcus, pitched a startup for resident-controlled smart cameras and tamper-proof notice boards. The idea caught fire, and I helped demo it, linking the Tesla to show how private tech could protect, not oppress. Linda, predictably, filed a complaint, but the board tossed it, citing her own prior approval for tech pilots. The DA charged Linda with theft, fraud, tampering, and obstruction. Her house went up for sale, and one morning, a moving truck arrived. She sat in a folding chair, sunglasses on, watching her life get boxed up. No one waved. It was quiet, final. The neighborhood bloomed, kids drew chalk art, yards sprouted quirky decor, an old man painted his fence electric blue. Linda's reign was over, her schemes exposed by a car she couldn't outsmart and a community she couldn't silence. Justice wasn't loud, it was electric, precise, and driven by people who'd finally had enough.